Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another For the Empire live stream. Just going to be doing a quick little shot here for the next episode. Just give me a minute to set everything up, make sure I can see everything that's going on. Ooh, turn my own sound down so I can't hear myself. There we go. Right, so this is, as I say, a shot from the upcoming next episode of Season 2 of For the Empire. And it's a multi-trooper shot. As you can see, there are tons of troopers here in this small environment, but we're just going to be focusing on 3 of them to start with. Hi, TK244 and Con Warlock. Nice to see you.
This guy wants to swap places with you.
So you hopefully can hear that. It's had to be quite quiet because
This guy wants to swap places with you.
otherwise I get echo in my mic, and I haven't quite figured out how to switch it off yet. But basically we want to get TKFKU, which is here, to tap this guy on the shoulder. Hello Alex Dragon, hello Collect GP30 and Hookman. When will that episode come out? Hopefully by the end of February. Yeah, it just depends on how long these things take to put together, but yeah, I'm intending to, yeah, by the end of February. That's my goal. So anyway, I've got some basic animations set up on these guys. As you can see, they all move at exactly the same time because they all have the same animation on, which is not ideal. So we're going to alter our main guy here, and so we can edit him frame by frame. There we go. And once again, if you've watched any of these before, usually the first thing I do is delete all the head movements. So now he doesn't turn his head at the same time as the others. So we're going to ignore the other 2 for now, that they're doing the same thing, because we'll come back and do them later. So we're going to start him looking over it. Oops, switch my rebleeds back on so I can see what's happening. I'm going to start him looking over at TKFNG, who's next to him here. And then he's going to turn to this guy in front. Just probably tilt his head a little bit on this guy. So it's just finding the little moments in the dialogue that you can accentuate with motion. So we're going to speed that up a little bit. Let's zoom in so we can bring these keyframes closer together. Like a little head flick like that, this guy. So while I've got you all here on the live chat, I have to remind you about channel memberships, where you can sign up to the channel and get advanced screenings to the next episode if you're keen to see it ahead of everyone else. You can also sign up on Patreon, which gets you the same result. And I must remind you all about the AFK store as well, which has numerous t-shirts and other things which you can buy to show your love for the Empire, should you so desire. TK244. Well, she had a pretty good response, didn't she, in the comments, and people seem to like her as a character, so I'm sure we'll see her again. But that doesn't mean there's not going to be like classic duo adventures. Just sticking to the original formula as well, you know, classic Rick and Morty adventures. Tinsfur. What software is being used? This is Unreal Engine 5.1, which is a pretty amazing piece of software, I have to say. Okay, so getting the head turn about right in all the right places. So now I'm going to try and get him tapping this guy on the shoulder, which is sometimes the tricky part. So we're just going to delete all his arm keyframes. Zoom out so I can see what his arm's doing. Oh, he's a lot further away than I thought he was. So we might have to actually move this row of troopers a little closer, otherwise he's not going to be able to reach to actually tap him on the shoulder. There we go. So he turns to the front, put a keyframe here, forward it a bit, and then put another keyframe. Now his hand's going to pass through his gun, but that's okay because we'll come back and do something about that in a minute. His forearm. Oops. So keep it there. But sometimes this is the trickiest part, is getting these when you want two characters to connect with each other. Because obviously if two characters, 3D characters in a thing like this do connect, oftentimes if you're not careful they can just pass through each other because they don't actually collide. The meshes will just pass through each other. So that's getting him to look like he's actually touching can be a bit tricky, and they might still be a bit too far away. It's hard to say. Hang on. I hope you all enjoyed the previous episode. It was a fun one to put together. If you've watched any of these live streams before of me putting it together, you can see now why I didn't want to reveal too much about what was being said, because it was going to be a dead giveaway of the new character. He's still a little far away, but that's okay because I can actually maybe turn his spine as well so he leans in a bit more. Let's look at that on camera. So we're just going to adjust his arm so it's in the right place. I hope you can see why these take a little while to put together. I mean, I'd love to be able to churn them out a bit faster, but the fact is that even though Unreal makes this process so much faster than it would have been previously, it still does take time. Okay, so now I'm just going to adjust the fingers as well. It's kind of like stop motion in a way as well, where you've got a whole skeleton to play with. And you have to kind of bend every little bit just right. So when I first started doing this, it was a matter of remembering which bone corresponded to which part and which parts you had to move. But after a while, I've gotten quite used to just finding the right bones and entering the right shortcuts to bend them to hopefully to the right places. Thank you, TK224. That's very nice of you to say. But you know, the fact is that I'm keen to get them out as well because I like seeing the finished product as much as anybody else. You know, I can see it in my head, but actually getting it onto screen can be quite a laborious process. But it's all good. It's all good. Yeah, and this is just, you got 4 fingers and a thumb, so you gotta alter every single one. There is actually a faster way of doing this, but it means rebuilding this skeleton or this character slightly in Character Creator, which I haven't gotten around to doing yet, but I should really do before I get too much further. Where's this index finger gone? There we go. So I'm just gonna alter the hand here. So he does a tap. Find the hand. There it is. So arm up. Let's bring the hand up. Like so. And it's down. Tap. Tap. Probably needs to be a lot faster than that. That's quite a slow tap. Will we get more of the new guy who talks a lot like a girl? You mean the one that actually is a girl? Yes, probably. So tap tap. And now we want him to... Thank you, TK224. Thanks for checking in. And now we want him to gesture to the side. So that's a matter of taking his arm. Tap, tap, tap. He's got his attention. And now we're going to bring his arm over here and bring his forearm. We should probably want to bring his arm down. Oops. Thanks, Ben. It is, I mean, technically it is motion capture to a degree because all I'm doing here is, a lot of the time, is building on an existing animation that has been done with a motion capture suit that I've downloaded off a site. So a lot of the time I'm not building these completely from scratch. But in this example, yes, I am trying to have a gesture here which looks realistic, and that's where it can get a little tricky, because you don't want it to look too jerky. You don't want his arms to come to a sudden stop like they do here. And that's where it's just a matter of fiddling around until it looks right, which I probably won't do in this live stream too much, because that takes time and it can get boring for you guys to watch me manipulate keyframes for hours on end. That was a weird noise. Cheesy Whiz. Cheesy Whiz. Is the program free? Yes, Unreal is free. It is free to download and use. Proviso, it is a massive learning curve, and you do need a reasonably powerful computer to run it to any degree. But you can, if you just wanted to try it out, if you've got a don't want to say a lower end computer, but if you don't have like the gruntiest computer in the world, you can download it and try it out to a degree to see if you like it. That's what I did originally. I had an older computer and I tried it, and it ran pretty slowly, but I was able to get a feel for it. How much RAM? I forget, to be honest. I'd have to look it up. Just going to move that a little bit closer. Tap, tap. There's that funny little jerky movement there. Maybe it's that keyframe. So now I have to alter the thumb again. And bring the index finger down. If you're making a character on Blender and it said you needed more RAM, yeah, hard to know what the issue is there. It could be maybe your character's mesh is too dense. A lot of the time that's the problems I've encountered, is when what I have discovered about 3D modeling is that you can actually get away with quite simple meshes on your characters, like quite low polygons, and a lot of the detail actually comes out of texture maps and what's called normal maps, which creates the bumps and the height. That's getting there. So a lot of the time your characters don't have to be incredibly detailed in terms of the actual mesh. Like these meshes are quite simple and all the details coming out in the textures. Who are the voice actors? These are a couple of local actors from New Zealand called Callum Gittins and Dallas Barnett. Okay, so now that's a nice base, which I can come back and fine tune later. So now I'm going to do this guy and save. Always save. And adjust his keyframes so he starts out okay. Might have a little reaction there. Like so. So probably get into that little side-to-side thing you do when you're not quite sure who's tapping you, because that's funny. Hello, Simulator Gaming. Welcome aboard. So once again, needs to be a lot faster. What? So that head movement is too jerky, so he stops too suddenly, so I just put another one in the middle, which just takes it a little further, and that should smooth it out. Nice to see you, Cheesy Whiz. What? Thank you, T-Hammer. Thank you for those kind words. The render time is surprisingly not as bad as you might imagine. There's a plugin from NVIDIA called DLSS, which is absolutely amazing, and it's for something like this, which I'm not rendering out at 4K. It doesn't have any intensive kind of elements to it like hair grooms or that kind of stuff. It almost renders out in real time, which is, you know, it helps so much. Otherwise these would take a lot longer to create.
This guy wants to swap places with you.
Do a little twitch that way as well. What?
This guy wants to swap.
Yeah, I mean, some of the shots that I'm doing here in the old days, the old days, animated with a stick. Back in the old days, would have taken hours, you know, if not a whole day to render out. And now something like this shot, as I say, can render out in almost real time.
This guy wants to swap places with you. This guy wants to swap places with you.
So here's where we probably want to put a camera move on so we can see everybody who's being talked about, because FNG is a little bit out of frame there. When is this episode being released? Hopefully by the end of February. So we're just going to put a keyframe here, go to the end, and put a keyframe there. Just a little sideways movement.
This guy wants to swap places with you.
No. It's getting a little lost. So I might actually see if we can lean him to the side a bit, just to clear him from that.
This guy wants to swap places with you.
And lean this guy back a little bit as well. that.
This guy wants to swap places with you.
Okay, and now we'll just add a rough animation in for FNG to react to what's being said. Once again, find the head motion. So T Hammer, what you're seeing on the screen here, how similar is this to, you know, animating in the old days? Was there a lot of this kind of keyframing, moving things around physically like this, or was it more done with sliders, or? Because I've seen some videos of like old Pixar movies from the 90s being animated behind the scenes, and it seemed to be just a lot of sliders and numerical entry. So you should already be looking at that point. So faster reaction there. This guy wants to swap places. What? No, I don't. So a little jerky side-to-side head motion there. Saving.
This guy wants to swap places with you.
I don't have Callum's lines yet, so I've got nothing to add there just yet. Yeah, I can imagine it would have been, well, it's what you're used to, isn't it? You work with what you have at the time. Like, can you imagine if you were a writer going back to a typewriter nowadays? It's hard to imagine. Sometimes I feel very spoiled in terms of how easy and visual it is to do something like this. Why is he nodding there? He shouldn't be nodding, he should be shaking his head. No, nothing but respect for old school animators, both 2D and 3D. The pioneers.
This guy wants to swap places with you.
Just add a little bit of spine motion to FNG as well. Hey Geek22, it's a learning curve, but once you get the hang of it, it's actually reasonably straightforward. Like each of these characters has a skeleton inside it. Each of the bones has a name. Like this, there's three. I don't know if you can see here, but so FNG here has 3 spine bones in different positions, and you can adjust those bones using keyframes. So if we put a keyframe here for this part of the spine, and then a keyframe here, you just turn the spine a little bit, maybe a little bit more, and by making adjustments like that, gradually you build up the lip emotion. And, you know, I won't lie, repetition it makes it easier. When I first started out, it was a very steep learning curve. I don't know how many times I need to stress that, but it is. But now it's sort of becoming second nature. Oh, that's right, there's one more thing, well, more than one thing, but there's another thing I need to do on here, which is going to hopefully bring the scene to life a little bit. I've also got on here what's called the alarm light, which is going to be something that's going to go up and down. So I'll use these handy dandy dividers here to get the timing right. Hey, Zack Ryder. Yeah, well, anything's possible if you stay in touch, and we may need some background voices at some point. For example, this, as you can see, this hallway's full of troopers.
This guy wants to swap places with you.
And some of them might need a voice. And now that you brought that up, I would be remiss if I didn't remind you about channel memberships, the epic channel membership level. If anyone so desires to take that on, we will make a 3D representation of you to put in a future episode of For the Empire. So that's something to bear in mind as well. Rendering one frame, 3 to 10 days. Holy crap. How did anything get made? Once again, I feel so spoiled. Respect. Put a little bit of camera shake on. A little bit of subtle camera shake.
This guy wants to swap places with you.
And the last thing I'll probably do today, just before I sign off, is just to check the focus on that shot. So we can keyframe the focus as well. Oh, no, I hear you, Zach. Yes, everyone's going through financial patches at the moment. I completely understand. It's the same all over. But, you know, viewers and subs all help as well. So being a sub, being a viewer, liking, commenting, it's all great ways to support the channel as well. And just, you know, being here and watching this, glad to have you on board.
This guy wants to swap places with you.
Okay, so probably call that a day for today. I'll probably come back and keep tweaking this particular shot a little bit more. I'm still not happy 100% with some of the hand and arm motions, but those are minor things. That's like one of his fingers is a bit wonky there. Those are minor things which you guys would be probably find quite boring. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Like I said, hope to have this new episode out in about a month. Yeah, please check out channel memberships. That's a great way to support the channel, hopefully at a reasonable cost, and also to get to see some advance screenings of the new shorts when they come out. Please check out our apparel and merchandise shop, which is linked in the new video. And if you so desire, please feel free to leave a super thanks on this very video here, because it all helps. Cool. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again shortly.